Good morning and welcome to episode 49 of Tech A Break with myself, Andrew Reid, and no Adam Walker yet again. Slacking on holiday, bless him. You might have heard from that small little titter, I have a wonderful guest. Wonderful guest over to my front here. Please introduce yourselves to my wonderful listener. No.
Hi Andy, it's Andy Dargue from Aqua Advice Limited.
Aqua Advice. So, for everybody, including me, because I can never quite work out what you do, what does Aqua Advice do?
We're a specialist consultancy for industrial companies looking at their wastewater discharges, ensuring they comply with their consent, whether that be to Water Authority or Environmental Agency.
Wow, so that's quite a big thing to do. You know, you must have, we'll come on to it, but you must have some great stories in terms of that. So how did all of that start?
Once I'd got my degree in chemistry, I was working in industry, and my second job, I was the only qualified chemist on site.
Wow.
In a battery manufacturer.
Right, okay.
And one of my responsibilities was the wastewater plant.
Wow, okay.
So I had 3 years working. 3 years working on that and developing it. And it's just sort of spiraled on from there.
Spiraled on from there. So 3 years working for that battery firm, working on wastewater. And that, again, you never think about these things until it's in the news. But obviously, every industry generates wastewater. Yep. And, you know, forgive me, all of this is new in terms of it. Is there legalities around it? Must they follow strict guidelines and everything?
Right. Depending on where they're discharging to and how big a company they are.
Right.
They will at least have a document called a consent.
Right.
If they're discharging water to a sewer, they must have a consent to discharge with their local water authority.
Wow.
That states not only how much and how quickly they can discharge, but what's allowed to be in it.
Goodness me. So all these things that go on in the background that obviously we're not aware of, but you live and breathe it in terms of that. So let me just pick up on that. So if I run a business, whatever it is, and I am discharging water, how quickly does that mean that, because therefore I can't flood the system, for want of a better word? I can't overload it?
Well, not only can you not flood it, you can't actually legally put anything down until you've got that document.
Wow.
So if you go, even driving along the high street, and you'll see it, all these car washers car washers, they should all have consent discharge.
Now, you say should. Obviously, some people must just not flaunt the law, but obviously they just go, I didn't realise I needed that. Right, okay.
There's a lot of ignorance out there, but ignorance in the eyes of the law is not a defence.
No, very true. We were speaking to a customer the other day about, I'm sure you're aware, we now do cybersecurity and everything that they're now saying in terms of, like, you know, even down to the simple things, Andy, like you should have by law a cookie policy on your website. You know, they're not going to hunt you down because you haven't got a cookie policy. However, if one thing leads to another, their argument is ignorance is no longer an excuse. Well, I didn't know I had to. No. You have to have all of these things. So when you set up a website, when you set up a business that discharges water, it must be in their interest. It must be legal for them to go, well, I'm discharging water. Who do they speak to if they're setting up a car wash, for example? What's the process?
Their local water authority.
Right, okay.
Which they will know because they'll be having water bills.
Definitely.
And that's the first port to go.
Right, okay then.
And all the water authorities have on their websites a section for business and a section for discharge of industrial waste. And it tells you how to apply for a consent.
Wow, okay then. So let's assume that I'm even running a simple car washing business with I get my consent. At what point, Andy, do I call you in? You know, is it because I know? Is it because...
Normally people who are looking to be green and looking to comply with regulations actually do it all before they start operations.
Yeah, I know that.
Otherwise, what normally happens is it's when they've had that first knock on the door.
Gosh, right, okay then.
Bear in mind how the legal system works.
Yeah.
They're given a couple of warnings.
Of course, yeah.
But now fines are unlimited. So a fine of 100 to 200,000 is not unheard of.
Goodness me. So forgive me, Aqua Advice. How many companies like Aqua Advice are around?
It's difficult. There's companies out there who will offer advice,
Right.
but there's not that many who will have the broad knowledge and offer complete service. So we will take it from initial concept right the way through to installation. Obviously, we don't do all that ourselves, and we work with a team of subcontractors and partners, but it's offering that full turnkey solution rather than just, well, we can offer this. There's a lot of people who'll try and fit what they have got or what they know how to build into a solution, and that doesn't work.
No, I mean, there's the old age argument or story, laughable story, where, you can always tell a consultant, he'll tell you what to do and what you should do, but then when you say, okay, well, how do I achieve it? Oh, that's not my job, that's your job. And we get paid a lot of money just for doing consultancy, whereas you seem to be taking it different, like, no, listen, this is what I can offer and this is what I will do. Very much like Resilient, we try and give that full wraparound value-added solution.
You've got to.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it's the only way Resilient can compete with the bigger boys, and I can compete with the bigger boys.
So you do have competitors?
Oh,
then?
yes.
Yeah. Right,
I mean,
then.
the competition tends to be on either very, very large companies or very small companies.
Yeah.
But it's down to experience and ability to listen to what the client wants.
Oh, that's a very good point, actually. So how did your chemistry, then working in the battery plant, at what point did you go, do you know what? I'm going to start my own company. And if you ever listen to me and Adam, don't bloody do it. Never, ever, however.
It was semi-forced on me. Because I had the situation where the battery company was bought by an American company. The site I was working on was getting closed down.
The similar stories.
I was then given the opportunity to transfer.
Right.
But the transfer, whilst was still in the northeast, meant an extra 15, 20 miles a day travelling. And all you got from the company was, well, don't worry, we'll sort your pay out, we'll look after you and everything. Yeah. And I think, well, that doesn't pay the bills.
No, it doesn't, does it?
Wasn't particularly happy with the site that they wanted me to go on because it was older technology. It was very much, that was on the wane, that battery technology. So you thought, well, that site's not going to last either. So what's the point?
Yeah.
So that's when I first went into business on my own. At the time, we were just looking at selling chemicals.
Right, okay.
And didn't really do much of the plant and engineering side, so we were very limited on what we did. That business ran for about 7 years.
Right.
I landed a consultancy job where I was running a plant for 6 months.
Okay.
Whilst I was running the plant, my fellow director at the time wasn't running the business, and I basically said, well, either you get your act together or I'm going.
Right.
So I left, went and worked for the company I was working for, did that for about a year and a half.
Right.
Got headhunted by an engineering company.
Oh, very good.
Went to work for them for another 3 years.
Gosh.
Down in Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
That was great until the owner decided he was going to carve up the business.
Oh, gosh, right.
Then I launched my own business again, had that for about another 7-8 years.
Right.
Unfortunately, got involved in a legal battle.
Oh, dear.
Nothing of our doing.
No.
Basically, an engineering subcontractor was brought on to actually put an effluent plant in for us.
Yeah.
Were basically suing us because we hadn't paid the bill.
Yeah.
We hadn't paid the bill because they hadn't finished the job.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Got all very, very legal, massive legal bills.
Yeah.
We found out that the engineering company were lying to the customer.
Oh dear.
So we had a meeting on site, and we got very suspicious when we looked at the visitors book and found they were on site half an hour before us.
No, exactly.
So just thought, it came clear in a meeting that they were both ganging up.
Yeah.
So then we had to have another meeting on site, and I just lawyered up, took my solicitor with me.
Yeah.
He basically could see everything I said, and we just proved what I said on site. The battle went on to the extent where it was going to go to court.
Yeah.
The engineering company knew they were going to lose and just basically said, well, if it goes to court and we lose, we're just going to wind the business up, so you'll get nothing.
Gosh.
So we were left in the position where we had to settle for less than we needed to.
Yeah.
And it just took the business under.
Oh, dear me. Not very good. But
No, but because of it, I started Aqua Advice.
Yeah.
Aqua Advice is totally different to the previous business.
Right, okay.
Because whilst we're in the same field, now I just look at the technical aspects of the job.
Yeah.
I don't, whilst we supply chemicals through a third party, we don't actually have the physical handling and everything of all the chemicals.
Okay, so less risk there.
Less risk there. I physically don't have the men doing the engineering work. I work with another partner who does that.
Yeah.
So I just can project manage and look after the technical aspects.
So that's very interesting. So again, one of our running themes within Adam and our Tech Break is trusted partners. And obviously it sounds as though you've got good trusted partners you work with, you love them. It
takes time to get the right ones.
Yeah.
And you have to be very choosy with who you go with.
Yeah, very.
And make sure that they tick all the boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
If you are unhappy with a partner for whatever reason and you can't resolve it, move on.
Yeah,
Choose
exactly.
somebody. There are other companies out there who want to work with you.
Yeah.
Move on. Get somebody who has like-minded strategy in business.
Definitely.
And get on with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know yourself, and I know from the number of chats we've had outside of hours that there's no such thing as a 9-to-5 day anymore.
There is never a 9-to-5 day, Andy. It's not.
And the guy who does the engineering work with me, he's very much the same.
Yeah, exactly.
He is supposedly on holiday next week.
Supposedly?
Yes, but he's going to North Wales, but his phone will be on. He'll be answering emails. It's just a little bit more awkward to get a hold of him, but that's what you have to do.
It is what you have to do. I mean, obviously, we all say that you get into business, to be your own boss, to do that. It is hard work, but, joking apart, there's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of good feel, a lot of good work and will. And when you find those trusted partners, it does make your life easier. Not the work, Andy, not the work at all, because you're still working hard, but it just means that you can, you go off and do that and you trust them. And that's 9 times out of 10 the main thing.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And it's having the people that you can say, right, can you do this?
Yeah.
They say yes. Right, you do that. I'm going to go and do this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always that old thing, isn't it? What is it? Never over-promise and under-deliver.
Yes.
Because that's the worst thing in the world. Yes, I can do that for you, Andy. Well, actually, no. And then nobody ever realises the repercussions of that. Well, you said you did that. Either a delay, either whatever, but the knock-on effect is just ridiculous.
Oh, yes.
I'd much rather, if I asked you to do, you go, no, I can't do that. However, here's an alternative, or no, I'm sorry, what you're asking for, I can't do. Take it or leave it.
We walk away from anything that we're not comfortable with.
There you go.
We would rather turn around to the client and say, no, that's not in our scope of supply. We've never done that before.
Yeah.
Talk to these people.
Yeah.
If it's something where we have somebody that we know and we work with, and we've not done it, we'll say, hold on, never done it before, but these people may have. Let me speak to them and I'll come back to you. So we don't actually promise anything. We just say we'll talk to them.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I had a conference Teams call with a company that we'd been working with on an effluent plant project.
Right.
The effluent plant project hasn't proceeded yet, purely on economics.
Yeah.
But they came back to me and said, we've got this issue. Can you have a look at it? So we were talking through their issue, and it became clear that the they needed some form of filtration
Right.
to take some organic material out. The two companies that they talked to were experts in filtration, but not in this particular form of filtration.
Right.
So I knew one of the manufacturers of the material and said, look, I'll speak to them. I'm not promising it'll
No,
work,
of course.
but let's get the background. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, so a couple of points I want to pick up on there before I ask a couple of technical questions in terms of what you've been talking about. I think what you've hit on there is having that honesty with the customer. So you know yourself, as a businessman, there are times, and I'll be honest, there's times where I've done this, where, shall I say, I've taken a calculated risk, where somebody's asked me to do something, I've gone, I'm sure I can do that. I've still been honest. I've said, yes, I think I can do that, not a problem at all. I've then gone away and gosh, right, how the heck am I going to do this? But at the same time, there have been, shall I say, two of the cases where, like yourself, I've gone, no, I'm really sorry. That's not in my remit. I do not want to tell you something that I can't do. But also then there's that other one. I'll say, listen, not me. I know somebody that I think that can help you, but it's always that case, isn't it, Andy, that you've got to be honest with the customer, or sorry, the supplier or the customer, and go, yes, but no, but yes, but be honest. You know, and I always say to the guys upstairs, I said, the first thing to do is either say, no, I'm not sure I can do that, and I call that setting the expectations. Yeah. If I say no, but come back as yes, it's actually, that's fantastic, Andy. If I say yes and then turn around and say no, that's a much harder conversation.
Yes. Because of how we do it,
yeah.
Even if it's something we think we may be able to do,
yeah,
we always assess.
Yes, absolutely.
So we work with a company in Kent, and they have a lab, and we supply samples to them, and we tell them how we want to treat the waste,
yeah,
and do an evaluation.
Right.
So there may be wastes where we think, yeah, we should be able to treat that. Take it on board, do the sample, and then go, well, it doesn't treat how you expect.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have to look at this, and this. Unfortunately, we don't do this, but here are some companies that will offer you that service.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. So, yeah, there's a couple of times where I think I've gone, you know, like, for example, it's strange. I got a recent customer, God bless him, lovely guy, but he was like, listen, I want to work with you, Andy. You know, let's work. You can come and visit me and stuff like that. Turned out that, you know, halfway through, I was saying to him, he says, what are you asking all of these questions for? And I'm like, well, it's fine. You know, don't get me wrong. You want to work with me, and I thank you so much, but do I want to work with you?
Yeah.
Now, he started laughing his head off, and he went, you cheeky so-and-so.
No.
But I'm like, well, no. Bless me, why would I potentially take on something that is like, well, that's going to cause me so much pain, and all you will do, Mr. whoever you are, you'll say, well, that's your responsibility now. And I'll go, no, I'm sorry. And he found it cheeky. And I'm like, well, no, I'm protecting me.
You have to protect yourself because just like in your industry, as soon as you take something over, even if it's not yours, even if somebody else has supplied it, somebody else has all developed it, it's this idea that the last person who touched it is responsible for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. In the early days, it was very, very funny because we, you know, obviously I was setting up Resilient, but I did a lot of, shall I say, residential things.
Yes.
So, hi Andy, can you pop around and fix my computer? This is not working. I would go around, I would fix the computer, they'd be very happy, and then a couple of days later, my printer's not working, Andy. Okay.
That sounds like at home, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, exactly. But it was literally like, well, it was working before you came, and I was like, whoa. And very quickly, you're just like, no, hang on. This is not, but you're right, the last person to touch it.
Yeah.
A couple of things that you've mentioned there, and I just want to pick up in terms of the actual work that you do. I think you mentioned an elephant, or was it effluent? Can you just do me a favour in terms of the waste? Just go through like the sections of what is an effluent tank, pump, whatever you called it.
Right.
Elephant pump.
It varies so much depending on the industry and the contaminants in the water.
Gosh, right. Okay.
Because if you think about it, you're dealing with anything from a car wash, through to a food plant,
right,
through to a car manufacturing plant,
oh gosh,
through to an aircraft manufacturer.
Right.
Just not. There's obviously a vast number of industries.
Yeah, of course there is.
So there's a vast range of contaminants.
Right.
So a food plant could be as simple as bits of food.
Yeah.
It could be a sauce.
Right,
that
yeah.
they've cooked the food in. It could be actual oils, fats, and grease from the cooking process.
Yes, true.
If you then go to the other extreme and you go down the route of aircraft manufacture, that could be from plating the component parts.
Yeah.
So you've gone from food waste to metals.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing, although some companies have tried to argue otherwise, as one solution fits all.
No, can't.
Every solution needs to be tailored. We find that the route of getting a sample, working out how we're going to treat it, and then putting together the system to do it works for us and works for the client.
Right.
Because at least if something doesn't go right when the equipment goes in, you can refer back to your trial notes and go, well, what's different? What's going on?
Right.
What's going wrong? We had one back in early 2000s where we built a plant and all the trials worked absolutely perfectly. The plant went in and the plant was working well. A manager went in, altered all the settings on their process lines. And we walked in and went, where's this yellow waste come from?
Yes.
And the MD just said, well, it's your fault. I'm going, how's it our fault? You're producing it.
Yeah.
And he was trying to argue with us. Fortunately, we'd kept samples. This is before the days where everybody used to take photos on their phone.
Exactly.
And we'd kept the samples and just said, well, look, there's the waste you gave us. Look, when you mix it together, look what happens.
Yeah,
and he
exactly.
goes,
Right.
And then we found that somebody had just literally switched off a couple of processes.
Why?
And because he thought they were saving the company money.
Yeah, well, back to that old thing. So just going back to the effluent, is there a stage, no matter what company it is, so take the company on the left-hand side, food, manufacturing, car wash, battery, aircraft, but does the water always have to go through a number of phases? You know, like where does the effluent pump come into it? What's the final, you chuck it away, and is it into the sewer? We see all these people chuck it into the sea, down the drain. What is it?
Most companies now, and even if you actually go on the government website, it actually states on the government website now that any discharge from an industrial process should go to sewer,
right?
Unless there's no sewer available,
right?
And it is not feasible from a commercial and engineering point of view to pump the waste to a sewer.
Right. Okay.
So the days where people could just flush the waste down the local river into the sea are gone.
Gone.
There are still companies who have a license to do it.
Yeah.
But they're getting fewer and fewer.
Right.
So that each company knows where the waste should go and knows what should happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you just look at the news this week.
Yes.
And it's been all over the BBC.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a company in the West Midlands has had a major discharge of waste into a canal and it's killed a load of fish.
It has, hasn't it? Yeah, exactly.
And that just shows you how much high profile it's now becoming.
Yeah, but how does it even get to that point? I mean, if they're based upon a river and it was accidentally discharged, were they allowed to throw it into the river? Was it a broken pipe?
We don't know yet.
Right, okay.
It's under investigation and it'd be wrong to pass comment.
Of course,
even though I know the company involved, without knowing all the details of what happened, it'd be wrong to comment. There's been incidents like Bunsfield where there was the fire.
Yeah.
And that's caused the Environment Agency to look at a lot of sites and ensure that they have sufficient protection to stop any water from a fire or a tank leaking getting into the environment.
Yeah, gosh.
So each site should have a plan to prevent a discharge to a watercourse.
Yeah.
And should also have a plan of what to do in the event that their effluent plant fails.
Yeah.
Most companies don't do it, but ultimately, the Water Authority and Environment Agency's attitude would be, well, if you can't meet your consent, you stop discharging. If that means you have to tanker your waste away, that's what you do.
Yeah.
If that means you have to stop production, that's what you do. There are circumstances where the Water Authority or Environment Agency will relax the consent, but that's only on application.
Right, okay then. Okay, so sorry, going back to my other question then. So I'm discharging my water. Where are the stages? I keep asking because I don't think you've answered yet.
No, I didn't. Sorry, we got diverted.
Where's the effluent bit coming in? So
normally end of pipe.
Right, okay.
It normally is the last process before the water enters the drain.
Right, and what does it do? Does it just store the water?
No, it cleans and removes the contaminants.
And so is this where the chemicals come in?
Yes.
Right, okay.
So normally in most plants, you actually convert the contaminant to a solid.
Right.
And then remove the solid. Now, the chemicals are needed quite often to convert the contaminant to a solid, and then to help that solid either sink or float. And then you can actually, if you get it to sink, you just use gravity.
Yeah.
Draw the solids off and dewater them. I'll explain that in a minute.
Yes, please.
Or you float them to the top and skim them off the top.
Okay, fair point, yeah.
So you end up using normally a chemical process, but it could be an adaptation of chemistry.
Right.
To actually get the material to come out of water. So if you take a food plant,
yes,
and you've got fats, oils, and greases,
yeah,
you'd normally add some chemicals to aid the fats, oils, and greases to come out of the emulsion.
Yeah.
If the good example is, if you recall, and I know it's a brand, but never mind, the Fairy Liquid advert where they had the really oily baking dish,
yes,
and they poured water into it, and you could see the oil film, and then they put a drop of Fairy in, and it dispelled all the oil and fats. Well, we do the opposite. we try to pull them together, to then allow them to separate.
Right, okay. So it's very interesting in terms of that. So is that what you were saying about so I'm concentrating on that bit at this moment. Every industry will generate wastewater.
Yes.
You then, let's say, treat it.
Yes.
And as you say, so I'm picking up that you either use some chemicals to pull the solids in, or they float, or they do whatever, and then you use gravity or skimming techniques.
Yes.
So that water, in order for you to work out what chemicals, is that where the samples come in? And that's where they go, here is a sample of what we do.
Yeah. We now have, like yourself, we obviously take a sample, but we also ask a lot of questions.
Yes, exactly.
So we have a detailed form where we fill it in, and that asks questions like, how much effluent do you produce? What is the process beforehand to give us an idea of what could be in there? Because there's been situations where clients have approached us and said one thing, we've done some testing and found something else and gone, you never told us about this. We forgot about that.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, you can end up in a legal argument, which is the last thing.
Or deep water.
Very deep water.
Yeah.
Or smelly water.
Smelly water, yeah, exactly. That's probably a better analogy.
So you try and engage the client.
Yeah.
And like you came on before, where you were asking the questions of the guy to see if you wanted to work with him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Because if you get the sentiment that, hold on, this guy's been very cagey.
Yeah.
Is holding stuff back. You think, do I really want to work with him?
Yeah.
Because yes, you can do it, but oh boy, is there going to be problems?
Yeah, I can imagine.
And when you've got clients spread the length and breadth of the UK and further afield, the last thing you want is problems. Because whilst you try and use tech as much as you can to solve problems, and I think everybody since COVID has seized onto the idea of Zoom, Teams meetings, and it's just made life so much easier.
It has.
But when there's problems, whilst, the phone and the technology people have now got on their phone where they can actually take a video and send you it so you can have a look, makes life a lot easier. But sometimes there's just occasions where you go, no, I'm going to have to get down to them.
Yeah, I get that. Okay. So the chemicals that are coming out, or the wastewater, you've treated that with chemicals. But again, questions just going in my mind. At one snapshot of time, you've taken a sample of that water, or waste, sorry, that goes on and then goes into the further process. But, the company may go, well, we've actually switched blah to blah. How does that, we're like, whoa, stop, that's changed it. Is that your job to monitor, their job to monitor?
Their job.
Is it a constant process?
Well, it's a constant process.
Right.
And with the better customers,
Yes.
you've got constant dialogue.
Yeah, of course.
And they will actually turn around to you and say, right, I know the plant's working and we're happy with it, but we're thinking about changing this. What do we need to do?
Right, okay.
And you can either say, well, send samples to us and we'll reevaluate.
Yeah.
Or you can say, do this, and let me know the results.
Okay.
So there are ways to deal with it. But you do have, and you will have it on your business, a customer who says, oh, I've got a problem. And you go, what's changed?
Yes, exactly.
And they'll go, nothing at all. And you'll find a major change hidden in the background, and it'll bite them, but it bites you because you have to waste time trying to find out what's changed because they're trying to tell you nothing's changed.
Absolutely. But that's the honesty that I think that we have to have with most of our customers. It's like, you're not trying to trip people up. It's just like, what's changed? Because it's like you quite rightly said, computers, put something in, you'll get something out. And we always have that in GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you tell me something, it will work 100% of the time because a computer can't fail. If something's failing, it's like, what's changed? An update, or you've changed something. So are your customers, shall I say, customers for life? Because they can't just say, thank you very much, go away now, Andy, go away, Aqua Advice, because they could change. Again, my mind's racing with questions because it could say, I will purchase these from my suppliers. They suddenly find that their wastewater is not doing well. And they're going, well, what's changed, supplier? Oh, actually, instead of giving you blah X, we've now given you blah Y because it was cheaper, or we couldn't find X. That must be a very complicated process.
Oh, it is. I mean, we've got customers that we've had for 30-odd years.
Right.
And we've got plants where we've built a plant 15, 20 years ago that they're now coming back to us and saying, we now think it's time to upgrade our plant.
Yes.
What can we do?
Right.
Technology is moving rapidly, and a lot of companies now are wanting remote access.
Gosh, right. Okay.
So not only does the plant do what the plant should do, they want to know if something's going wrong. They want to know by email, SMS, that something's going wrong, and then the ability to log in to see what's going on and to potentially alter settings remotely. We've got a plant down in Wolverhampton where we've got the facility to log on remotely.
Gosh, right.
And the company that did the software did an update. Right?
Here we go.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go. Did it remotely, and the whole plant stopped working. So they then had to, this comes back to this business of sometimes you just have to commit and jump in the car.
Absolutely. It wasn't called CrowdStrike, was it?
No. No, not at all. So they ended up having to jump in the car, go to site, and in the end, the age-old one.
Roll it back.
No, just turn it off and turn it back on again. And the plant came back to life.
You've just given away my secret. That's my whole business ruined. It doesn't work, honestly. Well, it does actually, Just turn it on and off again. Wow. So does that, the remote monitoring, again, I'm going back to what you were saying about the risk and stuff. That obviously is not your role. That's the company's role to do it. But you must have a hand in that.
Yeah, we actually can supply instrumentation to do it.
Right.
But also working with companies that actually build the control systems.
Good.
So they actually will take the information from the instrumentation and put it on the cloud.
Very clever. So again, is that part of your trusted partner? Not only can you speak to a company going, I will help you in terms of identifying what can we do to the wastewater to make it clean to go into the sewage system, you must be able to also go, well, I can also supply the chemicals if you want. I can also supply the systems that will monitor that, because I'm assuming, again, well, I say assume, forgive me, dependent on the manufacturing process, the waste comes out, are you adding X grams, tons, whatever, of chemicals to the water? But does that change depending on the toxicity?
Totally changes depending on the nature of the water.
Yeah.
Not only the type of chemicals you use, but the quantities.
Yeah, exactly.
And that all needs monitoring and controlling. And what now companies are starting to do is look to see if what they're actually trying to do is achieving the results a lot more, because the penalties of failure are so great.
Well, don't you find, though, Andy, this is a problem? Sorry, let me rephrase that. It's not a problem. It is, with the best will in the world, companies do want to be honest, and they do want to be, successful. They also want to do their bit for the environment. Nobody goes out of their way to chuck wastewater and go, I'll get away with it, because sadly there are fines. But what I'm trying to get at is that because things are now more public when things go wrong, that as a business owner, you must go, I want to do it right. I need to do it right.
They need to do it right because the pressure on the actual supply chain, obviously they not only have a public image, they also have a commercial image. And there are companies who will actually turn around and say, when they're looking at you supplying them, I'll say, have you had an environmental prosecution?
Yeah, exactly.
And they'll say, if you've got an environmental, no, we're not dealing with you. Yeah. So it's a big thing in terms of not just public perception, there's a commercial pressure as well. And that isn't the fine. That is, what does it mean to this company? Can we trade with A, B, and C if we've actually had a fine?
Yeah, now what's very interesting for me, and it's a good point that you've made that, is Resilient have seen over the last year and a half or so that the cybersecurity, not only is it asking the right questions, I'll say, about security, data breach, and let's assume, God forbid, that a company gets a data breach. The number of questions that are asked, Andy, are fairly obvious, like, what's the impact to your financial line? What's the impact to the employees? However, what we've seen recently is, what's the impact to your public image?
Yes.
So the loss is not a money loss. It's like, oh my gosh, I've sent an email to Aqua Advice. They've been subsequently not hacked, but they've been subsequently taken for some money. The relationship between you and me now is strained. And what they're saying is, don't forget, it's not only financial impact. How long will it take you to recover that respect and trust between? And again, most of my companies are going, it's fine, I get it, but I'll cross that bridge when they come to it. And it's just like, no, it's too late, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a difficult one because there's cost always involved, but you've got to be mindful.
Yeah, but there's cost in everything.
Yeah.
I mean, if you remember one of our early conversations, I think I was very much like a lot of people who was just starting to get onto this route of Teams and Zoom. And I approached you because we were having issues where we were working with the big one was with the engineering company.
Yes.
And we were developing systems and doing estimates.
Yeah.
And we were having to send documents via email to each other.
Yeah.
And it was making sure that you were working on the right document and the right time.
Yeah.
And that's when you, thankfully, said, don't do it like that.
No.
Use Teams.
Yeah, exactly.
And we now use Teams on all our estimates, which is great because we can be on a Teams call. We can have the estimate up and either of us can alter the estimate.
Yeah.
And it's a live document. And then we both know in the file is the actual current estimate. So when we actually then say to client A, B, or C, here's what the plant's going to cost, here's what it'll do for you, we know we're actually using the right one.
Yeah, I mean, I know everybody knows that I always go on about Teams, but it's just, I mean, there are other things, you can do exactly the same with Google, you can do exactly the same with Dropbox, and there are other products. I just find that majority of my customers, when they're asking, what's a secure email platform, I'll make no bones about it. I go, Microsoft to me is the best one out there in terms of that. But yeah, it was great, that chat. God bless you all. I'm like nodding away going, yes, Andy. And the answer's Teams, And yes, it was was a little bit of a change. I know we've had subsequent chats with your engineering company, bless him. Is it Dave?
Adam.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I just don't get it. But once it clicks, you know yourself, because you've thanked me, and that's very kind. But you're like, Andy, this is just working superbly now.
Yes, it is.
It is.
And I mean, we've gone the next step.
Yeah,
Because we now look at how do we actually control, not so much control, but how do we actually look at each other's diary?
Yeah.
And how do we get clients to book appointments?
And that's Microsoft bookings for you. So
Exactly.
Again, but it's all about, that's a great analogy as well, Andy, because you say it's about that trusted partner. I'm very proud to have you as a customer, but that's the whole point. Being honest and talking to me, because we talk, we talk quite a lot. And it's great to go, look, I've got this problem, Andy. I'm like, right, explain to me, what's the end goal? Right, this is your solution. Let's trial it. That's working perfectly, Andy.
It's made such a difference.
Yeah.
Because now the other big thing it's done is it means either of us have got access to it wherever we are.
Exactly.
Because what I found now is I don't take my laptop everywhere.
Gosh, right, okay.
I use my iPad. But because everything's referred back onto the cloud, I can access it no matter where I am in the world.
I suppose so. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Teams, you just fire up iPad, fire up the Teams. There's a document. Hi, Adam. Yeah, I can see that now. Thank you. And yeah, you're right. You're not always on, you can't always be on holiday completely, but it's having that ability. And we said this the other day, didn't we? Whereas, yes, we can be on holiday. Even on a morning when I'm on holiday, and obviously we did very kindly, you got us over to go to Portugal and stuff like that, but half an hour on the morning of just sitting at the breakfast table or at the pool where you go, listen, it's just half an hour. Email things. It gives you that whole peace of mind to go, things are fine.
As a small business, you cannot switch off.
No, you can't.
Because you can't just... You're a bit more fortunate than me because you actually have employees.
Yes, very true. Yeah.
So there is things going on when you're totally switched off. I know you don't want to totally switch off. That's probably the right terminology. But when you think, right, I'm away from the office, I'm not going to do anything, there are other people doing in the background. Unfortunately, there's only me.
Yeah, exactly.
That has the other benefit that you're the only one responsible for getting it right.
Very true.
But you need this ability to just think, oh, right, somebody's just questioned this. Right, can't remember it. I'll just click on and have a look. And
absolutely.
The fact you can do it remotely and you're using the same documents just makes life so easy.
Oh, absolutely. And it really is good.
I found, since going on to Teams, thanks to you, that now that we've got it on the iPad, instead of having to take my laptop everywhere, I take my iPad.
Yeah.
Now, that has two benefits. One, it's a lot easier in terms of traveling. Two, because of the range of things I do a lot of AutoCAD drawings.
Right, okay.
So I need a powerful laptop.
Yes, you do.
And I don't really want to be carrying that about because it's over £1,000 for the laptop. Yeah. And you know as well as I do what happens when you're out and about.
Exactly.
So the iPad's great because whilst it's still a costly item, if something was to go wrong with it, you can replace it very, very easily.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, that's interesting. You've brought us nicely onto the technology. So obviously in terms, let's just touch on your home environment. You've obviously got the office at home. You've got your trusted partners with Adam and your other people. Teams is obviously that conduit, but even if I can touch on, just for our listeners out there, you're obviously married to the lovely Louise, who we had on a couple of weeks ago, and she obviously does dark bookkeeping. And I know that Louise, bless her, well, she put what time is it now? She won't be up. It'll be fine.
She is actually up.
No! What? It's only 9:15.
Yeah, it's because we're going away for the weekend.
On holiday
again. No. But two guys you've met, actually, from when we got married.
Oh, Graham and
Adrian. So we're going down there for the weekend.
Oh, fantastic.
So she's under the promise that once I've finished here, that I'm not doing any work. We're going down to York Outlet on the way down to them. So of course she's up because it means potential shopping.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, to be honest, I'm surprised Louise is working because the Friday has the word date in it. Yeah, but that's fine. Anyway, sorry, Louise. Love you, really. But obviously, sorry, going back to that, joking apart, I know the office setup, it's great. And obviously now that your business has grown to a point where, you know, and it's a great accolade to Louise, bless her, she's now helping you as part of the admin.
Yes.
She obviously has dark bookkeeping, but the beauty of Teams, you know, God bless her, I had to explain it, but I'm like, you can flip between your dark bookkeeping, Louise, and just one flick and you're back to working with Aqua Advice.
And that has actually corresponded down very nicely into other things that she does.
Ah, right.
Because when I launched Aqua Advice and I approached the accountant I use, I said, right, what software? And I use a software called Free Agent.
Right, yes, yeah.
And it's really good. It's not as complicated as the likes of Xero and Sage, but for small business, it works superb.
Yes.
So I was busy working away on this, and Louise was working mainly with Xero.
Yeah.
And she's going, the costs of Xero are going up and up and up.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately with Free Agent, if you have a NatWest bank account or any one of the bank accounts in the group like Metal, you can get Free Agent for free. So Louise has now got a Metal bank account and now works with Free Agent as well as Xero and the others.
Oh, very good.
So things that I've learned and come accustomed to, I've rolled back the opposite way as well as saying, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?
Exactly.
But you see, even the likes of Free Agent is all a use of technology because it's all the data stored on the cloud.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've got this whole move from everything being stored on a server back at base has all changed. Everybody is slowly but surely getting used to the fact that no, we don't need a big server. No. We just put everything on the cloud.
Yeah, exactly.
And the cloud's secure, and you do your double verification and all that carry on. And that's the way it's all going.
It is.
And it's the way that everybody's doing things. Even, God bless them, HMRC are finally getting to grips with the fact that, hold on, rather than people doing a self-assessment once a year, if we get them all onto accountancy software, we can then link to their accountancy software and get the data live. So everybody is going down the same route, whether it's IT, whether it's taxes, whether it's bookkeeping, whether it's environmental stuff. It's all going so that people can have live access to data.
No, exactly. And I do remember chatting with Louise when she mentioned, or Louise and Michelle, when they mentioned that the HMRC are going like quarterly and online cloud, etc. It's one of those things where you just go, duh, why didn't somebody think of that before? Because doing it quarterly means you're very much up to date with the accounts. You know what you're doing. The end of the year, everybody was scrabbling and stuff. It was like, this is an obvious decision.
Yes, but you say that, and I don't think anybody really pushed it until COVID hit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once COVID hit and everybody couldn't go face to face, everybody started going, well, how do we do it?
Yeah.
And, Teams is a wonderful platform, and I've only scratched the surface, and there will be conversations, and I know there will be over the coming weeks. Have you done this? Have you done that? I mean, we've done things like we've got a planner now on Teams, so we can look at projects and see where we are with the project and where we should be, and it's just so visible. Yesterday, when this client approached me, it was an email at about 10 o'clock in the morning. Would you have time for a conversation? Because they were a client, I just said, we'll speak tomorrow, even though I'm going to be off. We'll speak, no problem. It'll have to be on the mobile because I'm out and about. And then they turned around and said, well, how about, I know it's short notice, could you fit in a Teams call at 1? Yeah, no problem. You're sitting at your desk working anyway.
Absolutely.
Have a Teams call. Everybody's face to face. And it's sorted there and then.
Yeah,
and it just makes so much difference. And especially when you actually put all your files in Teams because you can actually go into it and you can share a document with them on the screen, and it's all live, and it just works so well.
Great, it really is in terms of that. And I know, obviously, double backing back to Louise, she's finding that with the Teams now, instead of like the emails and stuff like that, she's created these shared Teams areas where the customer just goes, I'll drop that file into there, and you've done exactly the same with Adam, and I know with your customers. And again, I know we keep going on about it, but it's one of those things where, bless you, you were like, this is what I'm doing. It's an absolute pain, Andy. It's causing me so much pain. And yet when I showed you the solution, I went, is that as easy as that? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And you're like, wow. But it was such a game changer for you, God bless you. And it's just amazing the way that it affects you.
Yeah, well, the other one's Microsoft Bookings.
Yes, exactly.
Historically, what you'd have had to do is you'd have had to share your diary on Outlook.
Yeah.
The problem with a shared diary on Outlook is are there private appointments in your diary that you don't want somebody else to see?
Yeah.
Then, it's all right sharing your diary with a partner.
Yes.
A trusted partner, but you don't really want to be sharing your diary with a potential customer because you don't want them to be able to go through your diary and see who else you're talking to.
Yeah, that's great.
The advantage with bookings is you can put those appointments into your Outlook.
Yeah.
And it will pull it through onto your bookings page, and it will just say busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whilst you can then look at it and know exactly who you're talking to, what you're doing, the outside world can't. They just know you're unavailable.
Yeah, but again, it's what I did this for another one of my customer, and it was one of those moments for them that they just said, this is incredible. I don't need to check my diary. I don't need to even think. Andy phones me up and goes, can you send me, can we book a diary? Here's my booking link. Yeah. You switch off after that because you know that diary is looking specifically. And again, bless him, he was going, yeah, but Andy, I don't want my meeting at 1 o'clock to finish at 2 o'clock to have another meeting. I went, no, put some buffer times either side of half an hour. I have actually increased mine to an hour now because obviously I get off and then I go, well, I must action that meeting. I must do that. And again, this gentleman was just like, you're telling me? And I'm like, yes. And now he's using it. He went, this is incredible. And now he says he includes it on the bottom of his email signature because I want to book a meeting with me? Just click this link.
I actually have in my drafts on my email, my booking link.
Get it.
So if any of my clients say, oh, can we book a meeting? I can just literally... Yeah, exactly.
You see, it's all about that, man. It's all about that whole thing with you in terms of just making your life so much easier. Last week, we had a wonderful gentleman on, Michael James, and he's very interested in AI. First of all, within your industry, the water industry, the waste effluent and the stuff they do, is AI even encroaching onto that?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everybody... There's a big thing within the water industry itself, and it is AI, but they don't call it AI. They've adopted this thing smart.
Right, okay, yeah.
And everybody's looking at smart water, smart monitoring, and you just go, oh, God, it's so cringeworthy.
Yeah.
But it's one of these words that's overused.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. Like holiday, Louise. That's overused.
That's not so far away either. That's less than a month away at the next one.
Well, I am shocked.
Yeah, but that'll be the big one of the year.
Yeah, it will be. Good.
Yeah, she's moaned on about that. We've only had one big holiday this year. But
Louise moaning?
No. We've both been so busy, so there's reasons behind.
Yeah.
It has meant that we've finally got our garden sorted out from the back.
Yes.
Instead of living whilst still living on a building site, at least our house doesn't look like it's a building site.
It's a beautiful house though, but yeah, the back garden is like, yeah.
It's now grassed and got plants all the way around.
Very nice.
So yes, it's a nice area to sit and relax on a night.
Good.
But AI is creeping in.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were talking about remote monitoring, that is all part of AI because one of the technologies we use was developed for the water authorities.
Gosh, right.
Instead of having the old-fashioned way where you had a sensor back to a monitor and then tried to download the data from the monitor, these are sensors that can send the data direct to the cloud.
Wow.
So technology is changing and moving forward.
Yeah.
The big advance with our industry is going to be more and more people doing things on the cloud and remote access.
Yeah.
And that's going to have impact not only for us, but businesses like yourselves, where there's going to be more and more inquiries. How do I do this? Is this secure?
Yeah.
How do I remote access it?
Yeah.
Where do I put the data afterwards?
Yeah.
And that's the way it's all going.
It is really, and I think that's more the things that, I do have some clients that are like, no, I refuse to go to the cloud. And I'm like, unfortunately, it's a juggernaut that you will never, ever stop. And yes, obviously, you have to take into account the controls, the security, the levels of access. But again, I always get questioned by that. I'm like, well, do you give out your bank PIN sort code and your bank PIN? I'm like, no. Well, it's the same thing, really.
Exactly.
A lot of cybersecurity, I remember in my very, very early days of industry, Andy, I used to work at a plastic molding injection, and they were just introducing ISOs and stuff like that. And I generally took an interest, and looked at the saying that I said, which a lot of people laughed at, but actually, a lot of it's just common sense. Like, lock your house at night. And like, well, yeah, why wouldn't I? Don't leave your back door. Well, why wouldn't I? Don't have your email account not protected by 2FA. Yeah, why wouldn't I? But we are inherently lazy beings.
That's what it comes down to.
Honestly, and I think, I've said this before. I had somebody ring me up and going, I don't like the two-factor on my emails. Can you take it off? No, I refuse point blank. The reason being is that the minute you get hacked, you will come to me and go, you didn't implement it. And I'm just like, think of it. Would you do it to your bank account? Well, never. And why not with your emails? You live and breathe it.
Exactly. But like you rightly said, people are lazy.
Yeah.
Whether that's with their IT, whether that's with the production, whether that's with their effluent plant.
Yeah, exactly.
We
Have you told me what the effluent plant does yet?
Yes, take out your contaminants out your water. I haven't told you all the technical stuff.
No,
and rightly so. No, but
that's fine.
But all of them are computer controlled now.
No, they are, aren't they? So, just like, obviously, we're getting close. We've only got about 10 or 15 minutes left. I just want to pick up on a few, if you like, things that have triggered my brain. When you are removing the waste, whether that be, you were saying about trying to convert them into solids.
Yes.
An example is that the fat and the grease and this things like that. What happens to that? I mean, I know it's not your responsibility, but is there things that you're doing that introduces that?
It depends on the industry.
Right.
Food industry waste tends to go one of two ways.
Right.
Either some of it can actually go into animal feed.
Right, okay.
Some of it goes into anaerobic digestion.
Right, okay.
To actually generate energy.
Yeah.
Some actually goes into composting to actually fertilize the land. So
interesting.
That's food waste. If you look at metals is a bit more technically challenging.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Now more and more industry is trying to take that waste and rather than just put it in a landfill, which was the historic way of dealing with it, they want to recycle it.
Yeah.
So you're looking at things like taking that solid waste and sending it to a specialist company who will smelt it and get the metals back.
Okay, fair point.
So that's the kind of thing that's going on. Even now, it's just on the edge where companies are thinking, well, do we really want to chuck that water back down the drain? And companies are now starting to look at, well, if we've spent all that money with the equipment to get the water clean, is there something we can either do to clean it up further to reuse it or clean it up? Can we actually reuse it from point source?
Now, you've literally hit the nail on the head what I wanted to ask, because I was going to go, surely nowadays there must be that opportunity within companies to go, okay, I'm using the water, I'm doing it. There will be some water that I could put back into the sewage system, but, and forgive me for saying, things like, well, okay, I'll regenerate that to use in the urinal systems or the. So is that whole eco-energy reusing thing getting more and more?
Yes.
Right. Wow.
Yes, but what we try and steer people away from is going and there's regulations
I can
for it,
imagine.
going anywhere near their town's main supply.
Okay, fair point.
If you're going to reuse water and it's going to be where town's main water is,
Yeah.
you have to have, and there's a special code for it, but you have to have an air brake.
Right.
So there is no way your water that you're recovering can get back into the town main system.
Okay. But there must be a load of things that you can use. So the one thing, funny enough, obviously, whilst I knew you were coming on, I did a little bit of reading just to try and catch up, as I say, knowing what's going on. But I did read one company that they were saying that they generated so much hot water that was just going into the system. They're like, well, that's silly. I'll just use that to heat up the rest of the plant. And it's a perfect idea.
Yeah. Oh, there's simple ways of recovery. You actually spend a lot of money heating water.
You do.
So if you're discharging any hot water, putting a heat exchanger on to recover that heat is an absolute no-brainer.
Right.
It's like this idea of, and there's always a payback.
Yes, of course.
And a trade-off.
Yeah.
And I think this country is just starting to switch over to the idea of, well, if we build a house, why not put solar panels on it?
Yes, by default.
By default, because it's far cheaper.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's things like that. If you can actually approach a company, if they're spending 100,000, 200,000, whatever it is, putting a plant in, and you can say, well, have you thought about reusing this water?
Yeah.
So that is coming in more and more.
Yeah.
If you're going to reuse the water, there's all sorts of more controls that you need to put in and more equipment.
Yeah,
and the more sophisticated you can make the control system, the better. So it all comes back down to this business of, can I see what's going on? Can I click on a button and see what's going on in the plant? Or can I be sitting at my dining room table and get an email and say something's gone wrong and then dial in and see what's wrong?
But it's all about that reactiveness, isn't it? It's all about that whole thing. Again, just going back to Michael James, he was saying that he's won a secured contract to build a solar panel farm in Middlesbrough, and his idea is to provide the energy from that, not only to go back into the grid, but to supply the houses. Middlesbrough, he's got some fair areas that need some regeneration, community-led regeneration. But his idea was like perfect. It's just like, instead of selling it back, give it back to the houses to make their electrical bills lower.
Well, there's been trials done. I can't remember exactly how far it's got, but with X-Mine Works, where they actually have got a source of hot water, and they're actually going to tap into that source of hot water to actually heat homes.
You see, but isn't it right that we should be doing these things?
Yes.
And sadly, it takes things like you were saying about COVID and about Teams and stuff like that. But I do think we are turning the corner to try and go, hang on, this ain't going to last forever. We need to get clever and clever at regenerating, reutilising. But you must see that.
Oh, yeah. You see it in your everyday life.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not many new cars now that aren't at least a hybrid.
I'm getting mine soon.
Yeah, I know you are.
Getting excited.
And one of the things with hybrid technology is that they regenerate power.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've got control technology built into that car to actually get more battery power generated from when you brake, when you cruise along.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Well, it's so clever. I mean, I know when I'm doing a long journey, I can get another 40 to 60 miles of free energy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what my gentleman was saying when he's telling me about my PHEV or whatever they call it. He was saying, literally, the technology is so clever now, you'll generate or use up electricity to accelerate. But he said, if you take your foot off the gas, if you brake, the energy just goes back into the battery. And he says it recharges itself. And obviously, back to your wastewater, there's a lot of things that they could do, the heat, the exchange, all of that type of stuff. It's very clever.
It is, and as more and more companies start reusing water, it's a resource. I mean, people tend to forget. Yes, they'll go, coal or iron or steel or any mineral is a finite resource.
Yes,
so is water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and if there's ways that we can actually recover it, all well and be.
No,
people forget that if you look at London, London is probably one of the biggest water recovery systems going because their only source of water is the River Thames.
No, exactly. And again, it's interesting stuff.
So they reckon when it gets to London, that water's been through somebody 14 times.
Yes. On that note, Andy, well, would you believe the hour's up? And that's a really good episode. I'd like to thank you for that. It's been an interesting journey into all of that industry and about just like the whole thing. Who'd have thought you could have built a business on all of that? But obviously you have, very successful. And obviously I hope things go from strength to strength.
I'm sure they will. And I would like to thank you for all your support and ongoing support.
No, hey, it's very kind. It's all good. So I was going to say, what are you doing for the weekend? But now I know. You're off to see our two lovely friends. So that'll be really good. So you're travelling down tonight and then you're going to come back Sunday night?
Sunday night.
I'll have that. But then it's all back to the grindstone on Monday.
Oh, yeah. It'll probably be, no doubt, it'll be the grind before then.
But absolutely.
It
but
can't be avoided.
You can't switch off 100%, but you'll have a great time with the guys over there. I think we're just chilling out this weekend. I don't think there's anything too much going on. So it's just unusual for me. I'm normally flat out, but I think we've actually got a nice little weekend where we'll just chill and relax.
Well, it's supposed to be a decent weekend.
It's supposed to be decent weather, so you never know. I might get out. I'll have my water in the background.
I was going to say that with the diet account, which is noticeably doing you good.
That's very kind of you. And I notice yourself as well. So you're back in the gym, trying to get some time in there.
Unfortunately not.
Work always gets in the blinking way, doesn't it?
The thing that we've noticed is, whilst you have the good intention to go in the gym, it's not the time that you spend in the gym. It's the time you spend going to and from.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the nearest gym that Louise and I would use is probably Aycliffe.
Yeah.
So if you want an hour in the gym, that's an hour and 40 minutes.
Exactly.
It's not so much finding the hour that's the difficult, to find the extra 40 minutes.
Oh, absolutely. It is difficult to do, to balance.
So I think the pressure's on now to convert one of the garages into a home gym.
Yeah, exactly.
Once my youngest son moves his furniture out of that side of the
Hint.
No, to be fair to him, it's supposed to be happening this month.
Good.
They've just bought a house, so
very
we're just
good.
waiting for that to go through, and then that'll be out of the way.
All right, well, that'll be good. So, home gym. I think that's definitely the way to go forward. Listen, Andy, thank you so much for your time. It's been really interesting.
Great stuff.
Great dive. Hey, a deep dive into the Aqua Advice industry. But no, very kind of you. Thank you so much. That was really good. Right, well, I hope everybody has a lovely weekend. See you all later. Goodbye.
Bye.